I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this. My name's Jake, and I'd been with Emily for about 4 years. We'd been friends forever, and she was always the fiery, bitchy type, sharp-tongued but fiercely loyal, or so I thought. We decided to get married last summer, and honestly, everything seemed perfect. We booked this honeymoon trip to Hawaii, just us, a fresh start, a new chapter. I was on cloud nine, convinced I finally found the girl I'd spend the rest of my life with. The first signs of trouble started about a week after we arrived. Emily was acting a little odd, distant, distracted. She'd be on her phone a lot more, locking her screen whenever I walked into the room. At first, I thought she was just tired or maybe overwhelmed with all the wedding planning stress still hanging around. But then I noticed her texts. They weren't overt, not at first, just little things, flirty messages from some guy named Ryan. I brushed it off, told myself maybe she was talking to an old friend, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One night, I was lying in bed, scrolling through my own phone, trying to relax. Emily was in the bathroom, and I decided to check her messages. Stupid move, I know, but I was curious and a little paranoid. What I saw made my stomach drop. There were messages from Ryan, things like, "Can't stop thinking about you and wish I was there with you." The words felt like a punch to the gut. I stared at the screen, stunned. That wasn't just friendly, that was something else. I felt sick, like my whole world was tilting. I kept reading, and that's when I found the real kicker. They had exchanged pictures, nothing explicit at first, just flirty, suggestive photos. But later there were texts that went into detail about what they did when they were alone. I couldn't believe my eyes. My wife, the woman I trusted with my life, was lying right there in my own honeymoon room, cheating on me with my best friend. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Was this just a one-time thing? Or had they been sneaking around for months? I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what just seen. My head was spinning, my heart pounding. I kept thinking about the years we built together, the plans we made, how I always believed she was loyal, honest. And now I was faced with this devastating truth: I'd been played. It felt like I'd been kicked in the stomach. I wondered how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind to her bitchy facade hiding this secret. I felt a mix of anger, hurt, and complete betrayal. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't know what to expect. All I knew was that everything I thought I knew about Emily was a lie. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind kept circling back to those messages, those photos. I needed to see her, needed to hear it straight from her mouth, even if I already knew the truth. I got up early, made a cup of coffee, and waited for her to come out of the bathroom. When she finally stepped into the room, I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes, but she tried to act like everything was normal. "So," I started, my voice hoarse and tight, "we need to talk." She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, the one she always used when she was about to lie her ass off. "What do you mean, what's there to talk about?" I pulled out my phone and placed it on the nightstand, showing her the messages. The silence that followed was deafening. Her face went pale for a second, then she rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. "Oh, come on, Jake. That's nothing, just some silly texts. Maybe he was just comforting me after Ryan broke up with me. It doesn't mean anything." I felt my blood boil. "You're lying," I said. "I saw the photos, you sent him pictures, you told him things I should be the only one to hear. How could you do this to me, to us?" She scoffed, flipping her hair. "You're overreacting, you're jealous. Honestly, you're so insecure sometimes. It's just sex, okay? It's not like we're getting married to be faithful or anything." That comment stung worse than anything. I couldn't believe she was dismissing this like it was some sort casual fling, like it didn't matter. But what hurt more was the coldness in her voice, like she was already over it, like she didn't care that she just shattered everything. I could see the disdain in her eyes, the way she dismissed my feelings. I wanted to scream, to tear her apart, but I kept my voice steady. "You swore to me on our wedding day that you'd be faithful, that you'd be loyal. And now I find out you've been cheating on me with my best friend. How long has this been going on? When did you start lying?" She looked away for a second, then shrugged. "It's not a big deal. It's just sex, Jake. He's my friend. I don't see what the fuss is about. Maybe I needed someone to talk to after the breakup, and he was there. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." That's when I finally saw the bitchy, manipulative side come out. She was twisting the truth, making it seem like I was the crazy one for feeling betrayed. She always had a way of turning things around, making me doubt myself. But I knew better. I knew I couldn't just brush this off. My mind raced, trying to come up with a response, some way to make her see how much she'd hurt me. But all I could feel was the cold, sinking realization that everything we'd built was crumbling right in front of my eyes. I didn't know how to fix it, and honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to. After that confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't look at Emily the same way. Her words, her attitude, they echoed in my mind like a bad song I couldn't turn off. I wanted to believe her, to think maybe she was just confused or overwhelmed, but deep down, I knew this was about more than just a few sloppy texts or some fleeting moment of weakness. It was deliberate, calculated, and she didn't seem to care that she'd just destroyed everything we had. The rest of that day was a blur. I stayed in the hotel room, staring at the walls, trying to sort through my feelings: anger, betrayal, sadness. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her and Ryan together, heard their voices in my head, and felt the sickening realization that I'd been played for a fool. I could eat, couldn't sleep. All I kept thinking was how she'd lied, how she'd manipulated me, and how she'd gone out of her way to hide this from me even during our honeymoon. That was the worst part, knowing she'd been sneaking around behind my back even during the happiest time of my life. In the evening, I decided I needed to get some clarity. I went for a walk along the beach. The ocean was calm, but inside, I felt like a storm was raging. I kept replaying everything: her sneaky little lies, her dismissiveness, her smirking face when she tried to brush me off. I realized I couldn't keep pretending I didn't see what was right in front of me. I had to figure out what to do next. I knew I couldn't keep going like this, not with her still in my life, not knowing how deep her lies went. That's when I started thinking about revenge. Yeah, I know how that sounds: cold, vengeful. But honestly, I was so wounded that I needed to even the score somehow. I wasn't just gonna let her walk all over me, act like she was the victim, and keep lying without facing the consequences. I'd been betrayed by the one person I trusted most, and I refused to let her get away with it. I started plotting quietly in my head, trying to come up with a way to make her see that I wasn't the fool here, not anymore. I wanted her to feel what I felt: humiliated, exposed, broken. I decided I'd gather more evidence, dig into her phone, her social media, maybe even talk to Ryan if I could find him. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some naive guy who'd accept her bullshit. I had to make her pay, in some way, for what she'd done. This was war now. I didn't care if I looked like the villain. I just wanted her to understand that she couldn't get away with cheating and lying without paying some price. And honestly, I was ready to do whatever it took to make her regret crossing me. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about standing up for myself after being so thoroughly humiliated. Over the next few days, I kept my cool outwardly, but inside I was plotting. I started digging into her phone, checking her messages when she wasn't around, trying to find any shred of proof that would make her face the reality of what she'd done. I wasn't just going to confront her again. I wanted her to realize how badly she'd screwed up, how deep she'd fallen, and that I wasn't going to be the sucker she thought I was. One afternoon, I managed to sneak into her purse and found her phone. I saw she'd been messaging Ryan all through the night, even after I'd confronted her. There were messages about how she was bored and needed some excitement, and how she was thinking about what Ryan said. I also saw photos she'd sent him, nothing I want to describe, but enough to know she'd taken it to another level. She'd been lying to me all along, acting like she was just comforting him after his breakup, but it was clear this was more than that. That night, I decided I'd finally have the conversation she'd been trying to avoid. I waited until she was in the shower, then I grabbed her phone and confronted her. I showed her everything I'd found. Her reaction: she looked at me with those bitchy, arrogant eyes, then scoffed. "Seriously? Jake, you're stalking me now. Get over it, it's just sex, remember? It doesn't mean anything. I told you I was just comforting him. You're overreacting. You're so insecure, it's pathetic." Her words cut deep. She was trying to make me feel like I was the lunatic, like I was blowing things out of proportion. But I was. I knew what I saw and I knew what it meant. I was furious, but I kept my voice steady. You don't get to call me insecure when you're out here fucking my best friend. How long has this been going on? How many times? Tell me the truth. She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms again. Fine. Yeah, okay, maybe we did more than just text, but it's not a big deal. It's not like I love him or anything. It's just sex. Just sex, Jake. You're making it into something it's not. I couldn't believe her. She was so damn calm, so dismissive, like she didn't even care that she'd just thrown away everything we had. I felt the rage boiling inside me, so much so that I almost lost control. But I knew I had to stay. Composed, I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be pushed around anymore. I was done playing her game. That night I sat there, staring at the phone, trying to process what I'd just uncovered. I realized I was at a crossroads. Do I forgive her? Do I try to work through this mess, or do I finally cut her loose? Every part of me screamed for revenge, but I also felt a deep sadness. I loved her, but I couldn't ignore the fact that she'd completely betrayed me, lied to my face, and used me like a damn toy. The trust was shattered. I was left with nothing but questions and a growing sense of betrayal. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I knew I had to confront her again, but I also knew I needed a plan. I couldn't just blurt everything out and hope for the best. I needed to control the situation, make her see how badly she'd screwed up, and decide what I was actually going to do about it. I decided to stage a calm, calculated confrontation. No yelling, no accusations, just facts. I waited until she had her phone in her hand, lounging on the balcony, looking out at the ocean like she didn't have a care in the world. I took a deep breath, approached her, and laid everything out. I showed her the pictures, the messages, the proof I'd collected. I told her I knew everything. I told her I wasn't interested in her lame excuses or her "it's just sex" bullshit anymore. Her reaction, she looked annoyed, pissed off even. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You're just jealous because I don't want to be bored with your stupid ass. Ryan's just a friend and you're blowing this out of proportion. You're just insecure, like I said. You can't handle me having a life outside of you." I felt my temper flare. "You're lying to my face. You've been screwing him and texting him behind my back, during our honeymoon, in the room we paid for. Do you understand how fucking disgusting that is?" "Do you?" She scoffed again, standing up and walking closer. "Whatever, Jake. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just needed someone to talk to. You're so needy and clingy. Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have looked elsewhere. But hey, it's over now, right? I'm done with this bullshit." That's when I snapped. I couldn't take her dismissiveness anymore. I told her she was a selfish, manipulative bitch and that I was done playing her game. I told her I'd had enough of her lies, her cheating, her bullshit. I knew she'd been lying all along, lying about her feelings, about her loyalty, about everything. And I was sick of pretending I didn't see it. I made it clear I was leaving, not just for the day, but for good. I wanted her to understand that she'd lost me completely, that I was done forgiving her, that I was done pretending I didn't know the truth. I packed my bags, walked out of that hotel room, and left her standing there, mouth agape, with her perfect little facade shattered. The aftermath. Well, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I still felt a deep ache inside, a mixture of betrayal and heartbreak. But I also felt liberated in a way. I realized I'd been so blind, so trusting, and it had almost destroyed me. I learned a lot about myself in those few days, about what I deserve and what I won't stand for. Now I'm trying to rebuild. I've cut her out of my life, blocked her everywhere. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again, but I do know this. I won't let anyone treat me like a fool again. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that sometimes you have to lose everything to finally see your worth. And no matter how much it hurts, you've got to stand up and walk away when someone betrays you that badly. Since I left, everything been a blur. I've been staying with a friend for a while, just trying to get my head straight. Honestly, I never thought I'd go through something this brutal. Trust shattered, love turned into rage, and all the dreams I had about our future ripped apart in a matter of days. It's like I was living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from, but slowly, I'm starting to see the light again. What hurts the most isn't just the betrayal. It's realizing how much I gave and how easily she tossed it all aside. She always acted like she was the queen of the world, smart, bitchy, and confident, and I bought into it. I thought I had the perfect wife, the perfect life. But underneath all that arrogance was a woman who was willing to lie, cheat, and manipulate her way through what was supposed to be the happiest time of my life. That realization has been a sickening pill to swallow. I've had to face a lot of tough questions about my self-worth, about trusting again, about how much I allowed myself to be blinded by love. But in the end, I learned a crucial lesson. Never ignore the red flags, no matter how much you want things to work out. Never settle for someone who treats you like an option. Because when someone shows you who they are, really shows you, you'd better believe them. I don't regret the time I spent with Emily, but I do regret not seeing her true colors sooner. I should have listened to my gut when I first sensed something was off. Now, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life, taking it slow, figuring out what I want from here. I've realized I don't need someone like her to define me. I have friends, I have myself, and I have a future that's still unwritten. If I could give any advice to someone reading this, if you're ever in a similar situation, it's this: trust your instincts. And don't be afraid to walk away from someone who doesn't value you. No matter how much it hurts, you're worth more than lies and betrayal. Keep your head up, keep moving forward, and don't let anyone make you feel small for demanding honesty and loyalty. Because at the end of the day, the only person you owe anything to is yourself.